Cassian Andor. Introduced to us as a co main character in Rogue One, a Star Wars story, Disney will now thrust him into the spotlight with the upcoming Andor series. Well, the spotlight won't quite be on him alone, but we'll get to that later. The point is that Andor is the definition of a show that nobody asked for, and that may not be a bad thing. But the initial reaction to the announcement of the Andor show was essentially, why? Why do we care to see the origin story for someone who is at times a side character in Rogue One where, spoiler alert, he dies? Well, with Star Wars content barely being dripped out by Disney now, many Star Wars fans, myself included, will take anything we can get. So let's go over a brief background on this show so we've got some idea of what's going on with the series premiere right around the corner. Please like the video if you like it, comment on what you expect from Andor, and subscribe to the channel for weekly episode breakdowns and reviews of this show and others. Season 1 of Andor takes place 14 years after Revenge of the Sith and 5 years before Rogue One and A New Hope. At this point in time in the Star Wars universe, the Empire is in complete control of the galaxy. The Death Star is nearing completion, and there is no organized resistance against the Empire to be found. The Jedi are scattered, broken, and hiding. The Empire's fleet grows every day. Saw Gerrera's band of partisan fighters struggle to make a difference, and Luke and Leia Skywalker are just teenagers. As Emperor Palpatine, Darth Vader, and their forces tighten their grip on the known galaxy, the thief Cassian Andor, the Imperial Senator Mon Mothma, and many others are forced to take action in the hopes of freedom from the increasingly tyrannical rule of the Empire. And that's pretty much all we know about the plot of Andor thus far. The trailers give us a general feel for the fast-paced, thriller style the show seems to be aiming for, but they're sparse in details. We can get an idea of what's going on with the few characters we know, but you can count the number of known characters on one hand. Andor is said to feature 75 characters, the vast majority of whom are new and created for this show. The creators wanted to focus on the everyday people across the galaxy, dock workers, craftsmen, ground-level employees. They want to stray away from the high-profile Skywalker lineage, legacy characters, and just the Jedi in general. In my opinion, this is the right move. The galaxy feels too small when new characters can't stretch out their arms without hitting a main character from the original movies. We don't have a complete picture of who we're going to see in this show, but it's highly likely we won't see a single Jedi, lightsaber, or even a Force user. Andor will focus on how those with little to no power can make a difference for those around them. Starting at the top of the list, we have the titular character Cassian Andor. After seeing him play a pivotal role in Rogue One in stealing the Death Star plans that were eventually used to destroy the weapon, we will now see how he evolved from a street rat thief with no real allegiances to an officer in the newly formed Rebel Alliance. And while Andor's name is attached to the show, we're led to believe that he will hardly be the focus. The next most prominent character is Mon Mothma, the once Imperial Senator turned Rebel Alliance leader. Her part in this story looks to far surpass her memorable appearance in Return of the Jedi, delivering a speech that lasted all of 40 seconds. Playing essentially a co-lead with Andor, we will see Mothma become disillusioned as she realizes she can't help people from her position in the Imperial Senate and must seek out those willing to rebel to make a difference. And Saw Gerrera makes an appearance along with one of his lieutenants, Two Tubes, who you may recognize from Rogue One. One of the new characters featured prominently in the trailers goes by the name of Luthen Rael. We don't have much info on him just yet, other than him being interested in recruiting Andor to work against the Empire. Unfortunately, our favorite sarcastic droid K2SO is said not to make an appearance in Season 1, and presumably Season 2 will show us how Andor met and reprogrammed his eventual sidekick. And there's a whole host of new characters we know next to nothing about that I'm sure we'll be well acquainted with by the end of the first season. If any Jedi were to show up, it would likely be Ahsoka for in-universe reasons as well as real-world reasons. Starting with the real-world reasons, Ahsoka has her own live-action show in production that should be released in 2023, so Andor would be a decent place for her to show up. Moving to the in-universe reasons, her appearance would be justified because we know she was involved in the early seeds of rebellion from seeing her take part in it in Rebels, which takes place during nearly the exact same time period. On the other hand, we got plenty of Ahsoka in The Mandalorian already, and her appearance would take away from the everyday people that the creators of Andor want to focus on. Officially, 3 trailers and 2 teasers have been released for Andor. However, each one adds only maybe one scene and an extra line of dialogue to the material put out in the first teaser. That's a nice way of saying that the trailers aren't giving us a ton of information to work with in terms of piecing together an idea of the show's plot. My initial reaction to the first trailer was one of slight disappointment. I had told people that I thought Andor would be good, and the first trailer just seemed kind of boring. Sure, the intrigue presented is nice, but I just expected more. The following trailers, however, seem to have gotten the message and present a fair bit more action than the first one. Let's hope that this stays true for the full show, and we didn't just get to see all of the action ahead of time in the trailers. The events of the first 12-episode season will take place over the course of a year in the Star Wars universe, starting with a 3-episode premiere on September 21st. A second and final 12-episode season is already planned with 4 groups of 3 episodes each group of 3 spanning another year and leading directly into the events of Rogue One. Tony Gilroy, one of the writers of Andor, wrote the Bourne movies, and he has stated publicly that Andor has drawn a lot of influence from those spy thrillers. Shot on massive real-life sets, Andor differs from the approach taken by The Mandalorian, which uses a cutting-edge digital background technology to bring its worlds to life. As ceaselessly noted in the reviews, this will give the show a gritty, visceral feeling. Now, Star Wars has been my favorite fantasy world ever since I've been old enough to be a fan of anything. When Andor was first announced, I think I was one of the few people truly excited about the show. I recognized that a show largely devoid of the legacy characters we're always focusing on, and that shied away from the overwhelming power of the Force, would be a refreshing change. A long time ago, in a galaxy, you know how it goes, an initial image of Rogue One leaked with soldiers charging out of dropships in the rain, and our imaginations ran wild with the prospect of a movie not focused on the Skywalkers or the Jedi, but an out-and-out war movie in the Star Wars universe. While the final product differed substantially from that image in giving us a heist movie instead, the end result was the same in showing us that a great Star Wars story can be told without relying on the fantastical elements the Force brings into the fold. Although, anyone who doesn't admit that the Vader hallway scene bumps their rating for Rogue One up 1 or 2 points is lying. But the point still stands. And it's reinforced in Solo. Yes, I said it. Solo was a decent, fun adventure film that received almost all of its hate by being in the unenvious position of the first thing to come out after the failure of The Last Jedi. Fight me. And the most positive aspect of working in a largely unwritten time frame with new characters is that the sky is the limit. We generally don't have preconceived notions of what is supposed to happen and who is supposed to be involved, so the creators really have a ton of room with which to weave a story. Stated more cynically, they don't have a ton of lore or character backgrounds to fuck up. And that may be the main appeal about a show like Andor at this point. Star Wars and Disney desperately need a win right now, whether the people over there realize it or not. And the fans of Star Wars are even more desperate for a win. The Book of Boba Fett was a snooze fest, where Boba took his helmet off more times than he fired a blaster. Kenobi tried to trick fans with a strong final episode, hoping they'd forget the previous 5, and even Mandalorian is showing signs of wear. No matter what the Disney Plus numbers say, talk to longtime Star Wars fans and you'll find that most are only still tuning in, hoping for a sign that things are turning around, or simply watching to pick up new pieces of lore. The storytelling isn't gripping them like everything in the Star Wars universe used to, from movies to books to games. Disney said it was worried about Star Wars fatigue when it announced its intention to slow down their theatrical release schedule. But nothing is more fatiguing to fans than slowly dripping out one mediocre show after another. And with the only movie on the horizon seemingly just canceled, the number of fans still watching their subpar products will continue to dwindle. After seeing the trailers that are just dripping with intrigue, I'm optimistic that Andor's thriller style of storytelling can re-energize the fan base and whet their appetites for a different brand of show or movie if they can pull it off. If not, expect interest in Disney Star Wars to continue its steady decline. And that's most everything you need to know as we head into the 3-episode premiere on September 21st. Thanks for making it this far into the video. We'd really appreciate it if you would like the video, leave a comment, or subscribe as it will help us grow the channel, and check back here weekly for reviews and breakdowns of episodes of Andor and other current shows. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next one.